Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, details on a hotel booking scam just in time for the summer, travel season, and the Valley community of Rio Verde wins a sustainability award. Also, controversy over plans to restore a Frank Lloyd Wright house in Arcadia. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The feud between Superintendent of Public Instruction Diane Douglas and the State Board of Education reached a new level this weekend as the board moved its staff out of the Department of Education's building and into the governor's executive tower. The board got clearance to make the move in April, but it was unclear as to when or if the change would happen. One board official says the move was made to protect employees from an unhealthy work environment at the Education Department. The fight between the two agencies began after Superintendent Douglas tried to fire two board employees, resulting in Governor Ducey announcing that Douglas lacked the authority for such action. We will have much more on this story tomorrow with Jaime Malera, who has served as both superintendent and as a member of the board. Well, 5 members of Arizona's U.S. congressional delegation recently sent a letter to the Justice Department asking for an investigation into an ongoing hotel booking scam. Here to tell us about the scam is Kirsten Jernigan. She is Senior Vice President of the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we got a hotel booking scam to talk about. What's going on here?
Well, we want to raise awareness to consumers because the majority of people have no idea that this is going on. Even our hotels were really confused and had to do a lot of research to find out how this scam was taking place. And most people don't realize that you've been scammed until you show up at your hotel.
So go ahead, please.
So basically what's happening are there's these online travel companies where you go online and you book a room. Not the major ones that you and I have heard of, Priceline, Travelocity, those things. These are ones that you've never heard of. Random names, Booking Counter or How to Book, or there's things you've never heard of. But the problem is they're pretending to be the hotel. So their website looks as though you're calling the hotel directly or you're booking online with the hotel when in fact you're booking with a company you've never heard of.
So do they basically copy the hotel's website as best they can, use logos, signage, the whole 9 yards?
It's very, very difficult to tell if you're booking with a hotel or with this company that you've never heard of. But there are signs when you're looking at the URL address, you can tell because there's usually a / something else in the URL address, but you do have to pay attention, which is why we're trying to alert consumers. So
you think, though, that folks that book online, you'd think they'd be somewhat savvy, that they would be aware of this, but it's still going on, isn't it?
It is very difficult because if you look at the hotel, it's got the logo, it's got images of the property, and sometimes even if you are savvy, I was talking to someone in the green room and they said, oh, I always just call the hotel. These companies are pretending to be reservation desks with the hotel, so when you call, they answer as though they're the hotel. So it's very difficult. You have to be very careful.
So I'm pretending to be this resort hotel on the beach or something like that. I've got the website. I've got a phone number on the website. I'm sitting there by the phone. You call, and I'm saying, oh, sure, send the money here.
These are call centers, basically, that are call centers all over the country, and they've got little pieces of inventory of hotels nationwide. So there are some ways to make sure you're booking directly with a hotel if you do call. Ask some simple questions about the property itself. Ask about the restaurants. What's in walking distance? Ask about the destination. And if the person on the other end of the line doesn't know any of the answers, you're probably not talking directly to the hotel.
Interesting. So so far, I mean, how many reservations affected? How many hotels and customers affected?
It's very difficult to know because it's a fairly new problem that we've discovered. But it's a billion-dollar business, booking online. We all love to do it. You love to get online. It's convenient and find the lowest rate and book it easily. And the problem is you don't realize until you get there. Oftentimes, let's say you want to cancel, something happens, travel plans change consistently, and when you book directly with the hotel, you can usually have a 24-hour window. If you get there, something's not right, they'll give you your money back. But what happens is you get there, or something's wrong, and you've already prepaid with this other company, and by the time you try to reach out to them for recourse, they've closed down and reopened under another name.
So they do. I was going to say, how long can you stay in business as a phony hotel booking agency?
Well, it was happening for a while, and the hotel industry's caught on. So what happens is we realize, as soon as the hotels realize that this is happening, they'll do a cease and desist order against that company. But then all they end up doing is shutting down and opening up under another name. So it really is very deceptive for the consumers which is why it's so great that our elected officials have taken a stand in Arizona and stepped forward with this letter.
I would imagine there's a backlash now against online booking agencies. There's probably a backlash against some hotels because, as you mentioned, you show up suitcase in hand ready to go and they're saying, who are you?
Right. Most oftentimes you're probably going to have a room. The problem is it's not necessarily the room that you were promised on the phone. So if you have any special requirements, if you wanted a room with a view, if you wanted something with a connecting room as many families do, non-smoking, if you have pets, if you have handicap accessible, those are the little things that you show up and you're unhappy with your stay, and then it reflects on the hotel, which had nothing to do with the booking, that's the real problem with the hotels. We want you to have a great stay and not have any surprises when you check in.
Well, what kind of recourse does a traveler have?
Very little. That's why we're trying to say pay attention when you book. Take that extra moment to make sure you are booking with who you think, because if nothing else, your personal financial information is being given to who knows.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you protect your financial information as well.
Is the hotel industry doing something about this?
Absolutely. So since we've learned about it, we've been doing the cease and desist orders. We're trying to get the Federal Trade Commission to open an investigation. And as you said, the letter to the Department of Justice has been really instrumental in raising awareness of this issue in Washington, D.C. and trying to initiate some action.
Are these bogus hotel bookings, are they surging of late? Are they increasing? It sounds like it. What's going on out there?
Well, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and they get pieces of inventory that are siphoned off from other companies, and they can easily put up a website and sell the property. So it's a great business and it's a lot of revenue for them as long as the customer arrives and has a great stay. You know, everybody's happy when you book hotel. We're not saying you have to book directly through the hotel. There are plenty of reputable services. We just want the consumer to be protected.
I don't even know if travel agencies exist anymore, but those that still do, are they finding problems along these lines as well?
Well, if you book through a travel agent, the travel agents are very savvy and they're going to know, they're going to call the direct, and they're usually going to have a special line for travel agencies. But if you are, even as a lot of our savvy travelers, if you have loyalty points for your favorite brand, oftentimes if you've booked through this other company, they'll tell you you're going to get your points. When you arrive, you realize you actually don't get any credit or points for your stay.
Wow.
So it really is important that you try to book through the hotel so that you're protected once you arrive and you get the experience you were hoping for.
Impact on Arizona tourism. What are we seeing out there?
Well, the reason our congressional delegation in Arizona has really taken a stand for this issue nationwide, which is so great, is because they really understand the value of tourism to Arizona. Arizona is number 1 and 2, depending on the day, of tourism of industries. It's tourism and high tech. We employ almost 200,000 people in the state, and it's a $19.9 billion industry. $2.9 billion of that goes straight to our tax revenues, which, whether or not you like visitors or you get to stay at the hotel, it keeps every single household's taxes down by over $1,000 a year. So it's something we really need to protect to continue to get the visitors coming here.
And it's something we didn't know about, and that's why we had you on. Kristen Jarnigan, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Tonight's Focus on Sustainability looks at the Rio Verde Community Association, which recently was designated the first certified sustainable community in Arizona by the Audubon International Sustainable Communities Program. Joining us now is Gary Holcomb, president of the Rio Verde Association. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you, Ted.
A beautiful country out there, Rio Verde.
Nice to
Just
be here.
absolutely gorgeous. Still.
We absolutely love it out there.
Yeah. Let's talk about this certified sustainable community in Arizona. What is this Audubon situation? What's this all about?
Well, Ted, Audubon International bestows of sustainable community to those that develop a management and implement a long-term sustainable strategy. And Rio Verde was fortunate enough to do this. It's taken us nearly 5 years to do it. We had to focus on disciplines and managements in 15 different areas.
Why would, because I know folks out there in Rio Verde, I'm sure you have all sorts of folks with all sorts of beliefs and ideas. Why'd you guys decide to take this on?
Well, I think it's the right thing to do. And we have a chairman that he and his wife probably are the most passionate people I've ever been around for sustainability. And I think they've gotten the whole community involved in this. I know they have. And it's really been a wonderful experience.
Now, there are measurable goals in 15 areas that you have to achieve, correct?
That's exactly correct.
And let's talk about some wildlife conservation. I know I played golf out at Rio Verde. I'm telling you, it must have been 30 years ago. They were javelina area. It was like you were out there in the middle of nowhere. How do you now preserve some of this habitat?
Well, we still have a lot of wildlife there. But one of the things we've done is we've developed a butterfly garden, of all things. And it's on one of our holes, the 17th hole of our it's our white wing run course. And it's a beautiful butterfly garden. It has wildlife that come in there. It also has birds and things, and it's helped to enhance the beauty of the golf course there.
Habitat enhancement. Now, energy efficiency is another one. I know we have a shot of your community center, and it looks like it is tricked out. It looks like it is almost space-age material here. Talk to us about that.
It's really up to date, and one of the things that we've done is you'll see the solar panels. The solar panels were installed about 4 years ago, and they generate about 25% of our energy there. It's allowed us in the last 4 years to save 250,000 kilowatt hours and in excess of $21,000 in annual savings on our energy.
That is the community center, correct?
That is our community center. It's a beautiful facility.
A lot of homes in Rio Verde now converting to solar?
We have, there absolutely are homes that are now converting to solar. I won't tell you there's a lot of them, but we still have homes that are doing that.
Okay. Water conservation, and I'm going to mention water conservation because I've already mentioned I play golf out there. You got two very beautiful golf courses. People are going to say the Audubon Society gives a Sustainable Communities Program award to a community that's got golf courses. How does that work?
Well, they're parkland style golf courses. We have two beautiful 18-hole courses that were just redesigned by Tom Lehman. And what we've done is we've taken 15 acres and we've converted it back to desert landscaping. That has not only saved us manpower, but it's also saved us nearly 1 million gallons of water. So that's certainly helped in our conservation of water.
And again, you're explaining that these golf courses serve as parkland as well?
They are, but we still have, we're not the target kind of golf course. We still have our parkland, but we had an excess amount that we're converting back. So it is saving us a tremendous amount of water.
I think we have a shot of the swimming center as well. And again, people will hear golf course and swimming center. How can you win an award for water conservation?
Well, we are working on it, but one of the things we've done is that we've converted our equipment from propane to high efficiency heat pumps. We just redid our swimming pools the last 2 years, and they're really beautiful facilities.
Another area of focus, I believe I've read, was health and transportation. Explain.
Health and transportation. One of the things that we're doing on our health is Rio Verde community, its residents donate more than 3 tons of citrus to the local food banks. So we're trying to give back to our community through our citrus. We have a tremendous amount there in Rio.
I'll bet. Now, as far as the community efforts, all volunteer, most volunteer? How is the community buying into this?
We have the most volunteers of any community that my wife and I have ever lived in. We have from our golf courses to the management, everything is really run by our volunteers, and we couldn't be fortunate enough to have as many as we do.
And I kind of alluded to this earlier because, you know, people have different beliefs and different ideas of what's right. Was there much in the way of naysaying involving this?
You know, I really don't think so. One of the things that we've done is each year we have an annual sustainable program. We have a fair in which we invite vendors. We will have speakers that come in that try to develop best practices for us. And so we're continually improving our sustainability program, and looking toward the future.
I was going to say, people giving you best practice ideas. Have you looked around? Has the community looked around at other areas, other communities to get ideas?
Well, you know, I'll say that we have, but I'm going to tell you something. There's only 5 communities in the United States that's won this award.
Yes.
Rio Verde is the only one west of the Mississippi. So I'm hoping communities will look at Rio Verde and say, this is a community that we'd like to emulate.
I find that, so the other 4 designees all east of the Mississippi?
All east of the Mississippi, from Florida to Vermont.
So why do you think you won? Why do you think you won?
You know, I have to go back 5 presidents. It's taken us 5 years. But I would say that we have a management team that has a lot of foresight for the future. And we're trying to develop Rio Verde for the community that this next generation would like to be a part of.
And I was going to ask you, how does this benefit current residents? You know, one of the things it's going to do is increase their home values, we think. And we're telling them to buy into this. We're going to get the next generation that's coming, and here are the things that we need to do, and sustainability is one of the most important, we feel. So overall, and I asked if you got any ideas from other communities, are you finding other community associations coming out to Rio Verde saying, so how'd you win this award?
Well, we won this award on Earth Day, April the 22nd.
So it's still relatively new.
It's still relatively new. But you know, one of the great things is Rio Verde is located on right beside the McDowell Mountain Reserve on the west and the Tonto National Forest on the east. So we have pristine areas in which to walk, bike, hike, play golf, and I think some of the most beautiful views in the valley. So we better be protecting our future.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on this. It sounds like quite an achievement, and it's interesting to get a community to buy in on something like this. Well, it's encouraging to hear.
We're very proud of our community.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
The fight over an historic Frank Lloyd Wright designed private home in the Arcadia area near 56th Street and Camelback is turning this quiet neighborhood into an increasingly public battleground. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Kyle Mound show us how the two sides are framing their arguments.
Kimberly Lloyd Wright has fond memories of playing at her grandparents' house.
I started probably coming here when I was 5 and staying for a couple weeks during the summer, going swimming with my grandmother.
Her great-grandfather, revered architect Frank Lloyd Wright, designed the home. The David and Gladys Wright House, as it's known, is an architectural marvel. It spirals up from the ground, and the views of Camelback Mountain and the Papagos are breathtaking. A few miles down the road, a young man named Zach Rawling would also find a connection to the home.
It was part of my childhood. When I was young, my mom had studied architecture at ASU in the 70s. And as soon as I could ride a bike, she began taking me to look at Frank Lloyd Wright homes.
When David and Gladys passed away, Kim and her sister Ann sold the home. According to the City of Phoenix records, the new owners wanted to tear down the home and subdivide the lot for high-end custom homes. The city intervened and stopped the demolition process, and a search for a new owner began. Rawling found out the home he loved all those years ago was now for sale. So he bought it in 2012 for $2.8 million, with a promise not to tear the house down, but preserve it.
I am elated. I'm very touched that he has wanted to do that. We, as my sisters and I, were not able to do that when my grandmother passed.
Rawling says he wants to honor Frank Lloyd Wright and that he looks at the house as a living tribute to him.
Design of the house was in wood, and David Wright worked for Besser Manufacturing, which made the press that made concrete block possible. And it was David's request that the house be made of block and showcase the product that his company produced, and that's the reason we have a block house. The wood is all Philippine mahogany, which was relatively readily available hardwood, but all of the millwork was done by furniture makers. And really, the ceiling is 2,200 feet of piece of furniture. So every board in the house was cut and scribed in place. We've done a 3D scan of the house. Every board in the ceiling is a unique size and shape.
Inside, Rawling and his team have painstakingly recreated the original carpet as well as the furniture. Almost immediately, word spread the old Wright house had been bought and was going to be saved. And at first, neighbors in this exclusive Phoenix enclave were happy, but not for long. Some neighbors say Rawling's plans don't just preserve the home, but will also open it to the public for tours and other events like concerts and weddings.
We have plans for an underground educational space to accompany the house. We have plans for a garden pavilion sculpture in the shape of a phoenix north of the property. And the idea is just to make the experience of visiting as comfortable as possible. Have exhibition space for art and architectural exhibits, clean facilities, a museum cafe to grab a bite to eat, and then a bookstore with art and architectural books. So sort of the standard museum accessory functions.
Neighbor Jennifer Sheedy grew up 3 doors down from the home.
It was cool. We'd ride our bikes up and or walk up, and never went on the property, but got to really appreciate it. And it's kind of a local landmark in our neighborhood.
Sheedy says she supports Rawling's plan to preserve the home, but says his other proposed plans don't sit well with her.
He explained to me that he really wanted to give the children a chance to be educated about it. That's great. Move into it and invite the neighborhood kids over. Have, once in a while have a special program if he wants to expose them to that. I think that would be great. My kids I'd love for my kids to get to walk through it. I think that would be cool for them. But I do not think it is suitable for him to open it up to the public in the way that he has determined to do so, with all of these additional usages, public amenity usage that is just not compatible with our neighborhood.
While it's true a number of neighbors support Rawling's plans, Sheedy and other neighbors say they fear opening it to the public on a larger scale will damage their quiet neighborhood.
What concerns me most about the project is that I feel it will really change the fabric of Arcadia. Arcadia is a historical neighborhood all on its own, and there are more than a few historical properties there. I think it will bring in an element and expose our neighborhood to the kind of traffic and basic exposure that will do harm to our neighborhood.
The City of Phoenix Preservation Office says it hasn't seen any official plans for the property's future from Rawling, but that's because he hasn't filed anything. The city did create a special use permit for the home, which would allow it to be open to the public, but Rawlings has yet to file for it. The city says Rawling and his partners have asked for a delay on the special use permit hearing 5 times. They wouldn't speculate as to why. Michelle Dodds, who heads up the Preservation Office, says even though Rawlings is currently conducting private tours for the home, he's not doing anything wrong.
I don't know that he's doing anything that would require the special permit at this point in time. People are allowed to have parties at their house. They're allowed to have guests over. And so I don't know that there's anything that's being done that isn't allowed.
And while some have suggested moving the home to a different location, Dodd says that's not a viable solution.
Well, I would tell you that moving the house would not be appropriate. It would really impact the integrity of the historic property. The setting here is extremely important, and so that would not be the best thing to do for this house.
Dodd says she understands the concerns of neighbors, but also believes the two sides can work it out.
I can't speak for the city as a whole, but I think it's very exciting that people will be able to, hopefully someday, be able to enjoy the property. And I'm sure that the vision the property owner has can be done without having a negative impact to the neighborhood. It's just going to take a lot of work to get there, I think.
Despite all of their differences, there remains one view that everyone can agree upon: honoring the legacy of Frank Lloyd Wright.
It's remarkable to this day. It's just mind-boggling how they're in awe of his work. It's just amazing how people just are in awe of the architecture and the design.
The hearing for the special use permit is scheduled for October 15th. Another of the neighbors' concerns is for visitor parking. Rawlings says that he has a deal worked out with a nearby church to lease 130 spaces.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, we'll talk more about the Board of Education's move out of the Education Department's headquarters, and we'll learn about a challenge involving the U.S. and Mexico. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
The Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability is the heart of sustainability at ASU, advancing research, education, and business practices for an urbanizing world. You can learn more at sustainability.asu.edu/TV.